Hey everybody, this is my black ghost knife fish tank, and hopefully tonight we'll get at least a little glimpse of my black ghost knife fish. It's a very reclusive fish, it's a nocturnal fish, and that's actually one of the reasons we're looking at this tank. Tonight I want to have a discussion about my 3 basic rules of happy and successful fish keeping. This is a hobby, so it's meant to be something that we enjoy doing. And in my opinion, there's 3 simple rules to follow to make sure you and your animals will get the most out of the hobby. So we're going to look at this tank while we discuss that. I've also recently finished doing a cyanobacteria treatment on this tank. It seems like I'm always doing that on one tank or another somewhere. So that is different in the tank, and I've also added several more Rasbora hets. This school in here had gotten down to about 3 of them, I think, and I had some in my quarantine tank, so they've now been moved over here too to add to the activity of the tank. If you look closely, you can see the difference between the 3 larger, more colorful Rasbora hets and the very small, less colorful ones that I just added. But they'll grow up quickly and they will blend right in with the rest of the crowd, and this will continue to be a beautiful tank. So, what my 3 rules are. First and foremost, the most important thing with keeping fish is remember that you are keeping live animals and that the health and well-being of the animal comes first. That's the first thing you should consider about your aquarium. If you've got a tank that's got high levels of current and lots of surface agitation, don't put angelfish in the tank, or don't put gouramis in the tank. Get fish that like that type of current. Don't get a reclusive fish, or in this case a nocturnal fish, and then give it no places to hide in a brightly lit tank simply because you want to see the fish all the time. If you want a fish that's outgoing and that you see all the time, don't buy a nocturnal fish that's very reclusive. By nature, they hide a lot. So giving them the proper water hardness, giving them the proper temperatures, giving them the proper amount of space and tank mates, the proper diet, all of these things are to be considered first and foremost before anything else. These are animals and they should be treated accordingly and given a proper habitat within the realm of reason, considering we are keeping them in little boxes of water versus the rivers and lakes and so on that they come from. So with the obvious, that we're keeping it in an aquarium, you should do your best to make sure that that aquarium is set up properly for the animals that are going in it. Or if you've already got the aquarium set up, don't buy more stuff to go in it if they're not proper for going in there. So that's pretty cut and dry. That's the most basic, simple rule of being happy and successful. If you want to enjoy your animals, you should see your animals behaving naturally. And they're only going to do that if they are happy and healthy. If you've got fish that are supposed to be in a school and you're keeping them by themselves, they're not going to behave naturally and you're not going to get as much enjoyment out of them as you could. They're not going to live as long, etc., etc. So it's just better for everybody if we think of the animal's well-being first and foremost. The second rule is to be honest with yourself about your knowledge, your experience, your skill level, your budget, your time. You're going to have to maintain the tank and the animals that you've just put together, or the tank that you've just set up, or whatever. Be honest with yourself as to what your capabilities are. Do you have time to take care of 5 fish tanks? Do you have the skill set to take care of a high-tech injected tank with very sensitive fish? If you've been keeping fish for 3 months, probably not. I know when I first started keeping fish, I tended to be a little more confident in myself than maybe I should have been. And I went through some really expensive, sensitive, it was Plecostomus, really. I had a thing for Plecostomus, and it was not unusual for me to buy, $60, $80, $100 fish, because I thought that I knew what I was doing enough. I'd been keeping fish for a year or 2, and it turns out that my water wasn't right for them, the tank wasn't right for them, or whatever, and there was a variety of things that happened. I made some mistakes using hydrogen peroxide, and through a series of events, one by one, I've lost quite a lot of fish and quite a lot of money worth of fish because I overestimated my own abilities. and it cost me, and it cost those fish. So being honest with yourself about what you're capable of, how much you know, how much you understand. You know, if you're looking at a fish and it's just this cool fish and you'd really love to have it, but it says that it's for, you know, intermediate fish keepers, or it's for expert level fish keepers or whatever. If you're not, then don't. You know, they don't put that on there for nothing. You know, if this is considered an animal that's needed expert care, that's probably for a reason. And if you've been keeping fish for a year, you don't qualify as an expert yet. So only you can really decide honestly where you stand on your skill set. Now, we're never going to get any better. We're never going to learn anything new unless we push ourselves and we experiment and we go a little beyond maybe our comfort zone. I understand that too, but simply be honest with yourself with what you're doing, and you won't run into so many disasters. You won't waste so much money. You won't be upset by killing so many fish, because it's going to happen. You're going to kill fish. You're going to make mistakes. We all do it. I couldn't even count how many fish I've killed over the years, either by mistake or just simply not understanding the needs of a fish, or getting fish that I really couldn't provide the needs for, but I sort of convinced myself I would anyway. I'll try. One example I can think of is I got a bamboo shrimp one time. Really, really interesting looking animal. But it's a filter feeder. And if you don't have a tank that basically has green water in it, or you don't have pods, you know, freshwater pods in your tank or something like that. Oh, I just saw the black ghost knifefish make a little brief appearance of sticking his nose out of the cave. So maybe he'll come out soon. But that was the environment you would need to keep that type of animal. When I read about it, it said that if you found it like grooming and picking off of the wood or the rocks and whatever, picking at food, that meant it was starving, because that's not how they normally eat. They're filter feeders. They hold these big fans up in the air and they just collect stuff out of the water. And my tanks were not like that. So I decided I would keep it anyway, and I tried grinding the fish food up into really fine powder and putting it in the tank and hoping, and then, you know, and none of it worked, and I wound up just killing the shrimp. And I didn't lose a whole lot of sleep over killing a shrimp. But the point is, I should not have gotten that shrimp, and if I was honest with myself, I wouldn't have. But I convinced myself that it was really cool and it was worth it, and so on and so forth. So you are going to have to make that call each and every time you run into something you maybe really want. You're going to have to think about, do I have the tank for it? Do I have the skill set for it? Do I have the time or money for it? You know, sometimes animals require special foods that are just sort of a pain in the butt. I've had fish that would only eat live crickets and things like that. And while at first that sounds all well and good, oh, I'll just keep live crickets around the house, after a while, and a bunch of crickets escaping and never being able to sleep because you got crickets in your basement, you know, it becomes a different story. But now you've got this fish that's dependent on live crickets. So just don't rush into things and be honest with yourself. That's probably going to be the most challenging part. Being honest with ourselves is probably the most difficult part of this hobby. And for me, one of the most rewarding things about this hobby is how much I actually learn about myself. I learn far more about myself doing this than I do about you know, what's going on in my fish tank or fish biology or anything like that. This is just, for me, it's been a self-discovery process, and being honest with myself is all part of that, and learning what my skill sets are and accepting where I stand within the hobby is all part of that. A good example was when I first got started doing this, and I had a bunch of fish tanks set up and everything. I bought an orchid, and I set up an LED on the orchid, and I was down here missing it every day, because in my mind, I wanted to be that guy that had all the fish tanks in the basement, and he grew exotic flowers and orchids, and maybe I could get some other kind of weird, rare pet or something, and I wanted to be that guy, like, in my mind, and I'm not, you know, and I had to just accept that, because the orchid died. I didn't know how to take care of it. I didn't give it the proper lighting or water or food or something, but I did my best. It struggled. I kept it alive for a while, but it just didn't make it. And, you know, the fancy fiddly fish and the, you know, that's just not me. And that's why I don't bother with that. I get people asking me all the time why I don't have injected tanks, or have you ever tried this kind of fish or that kind of fish? And the answer is no. It's just I know myself well enough now. I've learned enough about myself through this hobby to know that that's just not going to work. That's just not my personality. It's not who I am. You know, it's not that I couldn't learn the mechanics of how to do those things. I just don't have the personality to be very regimented about things and keep track of things, and I put things off until later when I feel like it. And you just can't be like that and keep certain kinds of fish or do little fiddly things with certain kinds of plants and so on and so forth. I've tried all that. I've learned that I'm not good at that. So that was as much self-discovery as it was learning and understanding about my fish tank and my, you know, the aquarium environment of whether I could or couldn't grow these things. I did learn that, okay, my environment's not proper for that, but I also learned that my personality's not proper for that either, and that's the important part to learn, because now I know better than to set up fish tanks that I'm going to struggle with all the time. If you're struggling with something all the time, you're not going to enjoy it. So again, just be honest with yourself about who you are, what your skill set is, what you want out of the hobby, what you feel you're capable of doing, so on and so forth. And if you are honest with yourself, it might be a little uncomfortable, but in the long run, you're going to have much, much more success within the hobby. And then the third and final rule is kind of cliche, kind of corny, but it's just sort of be true to yourself. Be true to your own personality and who you are. If you like sunken pirate ships with treasure chests that the lid lifts up and bubbles come out, have at it. Have fun. Put crashed airplanes in there, neon skulls, purple floating neon plants. If that's what you like, do it. If you like a bare glass bottom tank that's all stark and there's nothing in it and you've just got one or two big fish in there and that's the kind of tank you like, then that's what you should do. You'll hear a lot of people, and I really don't understand why people do it, but you hear a lot of people bashing other people's tanks about how it looks or this, or you often see people sort of chuckle about how early on we have all of the fancy, you know, ornaments and the colored neon, you know, gravel and so on and so forth. But as you mature in the hobby, you tend to have more natural looking tanks and so on and so forth. And that may be true, or it may not. It depends on the individual. But either way, who cares? I did all that stuff when I first started. I've still got the leftover remnants here and there that you'll see from time to time, a little speck of neon gravel here or there. I've got a little tribute to my early days in my quarantine tank with my SpongeBob pineapple. I had fun. I did all kinds of different stuff. That's what it's supposed to be about. And it's your fish tank. Why would I care how you decorate it? If you like it and you're enjoying it and you're having fun with it, have at it. That's you know, that's what you should be doing, because it's your hobby and it's your fish tank. Who cares whether other people enjoy your fish tank? Now, I certainly understand if you're posting videos on YouTube, there's a lot of unpleasant people out there and a lot of trolls and so on and so forth. And it's tough getting bashed on and hearing, you know, people insult your aquarium, you know, just because you love it, and then other people trash it and talk smack about it or something. I understand that that's kind of tough, but to the best of your ability, don't let that kind of stuff bother you. If they want to talk smack about your tank, they don't have to set their tank up that way. It's your tank. If you like it the way it's set up, then have at it. You know, there's also financial limitations. Everybody would love to have some big, expensive tank with all sorts of beautiful this, that, and the other thing. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has room to do that. You know, so if you're just sort of true to who you are and you set your tank up as though you're the only person that's going to be there ever seeing it and enjoying it, and tell everybody else to go pound sand or take a flying leap, that's the tank you're going to enjoy the most. And over time, your tastes might evolve and you might change. You might not. You might do more whimsical, or who knows. That's up to you. But again, it's your hobby. It's your fish tank. It should be set up not to please other people or not to satisfy other people's definition of what a pretty tank is, or what you know, it's your tank. So look out for the animal, number one. First and foremost, set the tank up around the animal. Be prepared to give the animal what it needs to be happy and healthy. Be honest with yourself about your skill set, what you're capable of doing, what you're willing to do, what you have time to do, etc. And then do your own thing. Just be true to yourself and set your tank up the way that you are going to get the most enjoyment out of it. And I think if you follow those three simple, basic fundamentals of fish keeping, I think you will get the most success and most happiness out of your hobby. At least that's the way I see it, and that's the way I do. So this is my 2 cents, nobody else's. If you have a different opinion, you're certainly welcome to it, and I would love to hear it. So if you'd like to go below and leave a comment in the section for me, I will do my best to get back to everybody. Google, well, let's say Google's not great about getting notifications to me all the time, and sometimes they make it very difficult to respond. So if you do comment and I don't get back to you, it is not because I simply ignored you. I really do try to get back to everybody and all of the comments that get made, and so on and so forth. So thanks for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, feel free to leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Remember, this is my Black Ghost knife fish tank. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you real soon in the next one.